Hola, buenos días a todos. Estamos en una nueva sesión del IGF. En primer lugar, os pedimos disculpas por este pequeño retraso. Al final, nuestro moderador, que era Santiago Millán, no se ha podido conectar. Lo hemos intentado por activa y por pasiva, así que me va a tocar hacer las veces de presentador, por un lado, y también de ponente.
No puede entrar, ¿eh?
No está dentro.
Sorry so much for the inconveniences.
No, pero yo creo que ya...
Then we will continue to in English. Then we have 4 ponents for this session. The idea is to talk about the benefits of the use of personal data on the European Union. We have 4 ponents for this panel. First, we have Alina Ramona Makelaru, is policy officer at the DG Connect, and the intervention of Alina Ramona is about the European data strategy and how the Commission want to promote the use of data, because the European Union thinks that there are a lot of benefit, not only for citizens, also for businesses. Second, we have Antti-Jogi Poikola, is one of the founders of the My Data movement. My Data movements is a movement that try to put the citizen, the users, on the center of the data ecosystem. And they will be talk about this movement and what are the success or not success, and what are the ideas and how to do in the future. After we have Nicolas Lautaris. Nikos is a research professor at the India Networks Institute, and it works in the PinCity project, and they give you an overview about the benefits of the data, the pricing, how to get the correct pricing for our data. And finally, I will talk to you about the end users, what we need to improve the participation of end users on this ecosystem of data. Then the floor is now for Alina. Alina, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel, for the introduction. Can we have the first slide, the one with the quote from the European Council special meeting? Yeah. So good morning, everyone. I hope you're all safe. We are currently in the midst of a pandemic that has showcased the importance of having access to the right data in order to enable governments and public health authorities to respond more effectively to health crisis, and to keep us, the public at large, safe and properly informed of the situation. At the same time, it has also shown the downsides of not having a harmonized approach to the use of data with common data spaces under the same governance mechanism. The latter would have for sure made things easier. But data is also the lifeblood of economic development. It is the basis for many new products and services, driving productivity and resource efficiency gains across all sectors of the economy, allowing for more personalized products and services, but also enabling better policymaking and upgrading of government services from which we all benefit. It is an essential resource for startups and small and medium-sized enterprises in developing new products and services. That is why making more data available and improving the way in which data is used is essential for tackling health crisis, societal, climate, and environmental-related challenges, overall contributing to healthier, more prosperous, and more sustainable societies. Well, as you can see from the excerpt from the conclusions of the European Council special meeting on the 1st and 2nd of October this year, the European Council is fully endorsing the Commission's vision on data as set out in the data strategy. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, the reality is that on personalized data, and I'm talking about the business to consumer scenario, Europe has been too slow to react and is now dependent on others. And I'm talking about the US and China. That is why we have to seize this moment and cannot let this happen with industrial data. Well, if you look at the trends, by 2025, there will be increasing amounts of data generated each year, and there will be a move towards edge computing. While we have still yet to win the race, the good news is that Europe has everything it takes to become a leader in this new data economy. We have the technology, we have the strongest industrial base in the world, with SMEs being a vital part of the industrial fabric. We have the skills, and now, completing the circle, we also have a clear vision. Next slide, please. As indicated in the data strategy, the Commission intends to establish a single market for data that can help Europe become the most attractive, secure, and dynamic data agile economy in the world by ensuring that data can flow within the EU and across different sectors. Of course, understanding that not everything will be available for free and that sharing, accessing certain data sets might be subject to remuneration. Also, by making high quality data sets available in order to create and innovate, in a space where European rules and values are fully respected, and with rules for access and use of data that are fair, practical, and clear, and also with clear data governance mechanisms in place. Next slide, please. So on the basis of feedback from stakeholders and desk research, we have identified the following problems that would need to be addressed. Well, not enough data is available for reuse. More public sector data could be made available. There's a low uptake of voluntary data sharing among companies, so obviously there's a lack of trust in B2B data sharing. Also, there's no clarity on the use of private sector data for the common good. There's no real user empowerment. So the question would be for you here, whether you feel actually in control of your data. So even though the GDPR has created a very solid framework for digital trust, operationally, the data portability mechanism could be further improved. So we intend to explore enhancing the portability right for individuals under Article 20 of the GDPR, giving them more control over who can access and use machine-generated data, for example, the data generated by your car. As we all know also, there's a lack of European native data processing and storage solutions. There's an absence of a comprehensive data governance approach that would address legal and technical barriers within and across sectors through standardization and interoperability. There's also a skills shortage and a low data literacy. And of course, the fragmentation of the single market. Next slide, please. So how will the strategy be deployed? In order to release Europe's potential, we have to find our own European way, balancing the flow and wide use of data while preserving the European values that are very dear to us Europeans, like high privacy, security, safety, and ethical standards. To begin with, as a foundation, we're going to put in place a governance framework for the common European data spaces. Such governance structures should support decisions on what data can be used in which situations, facilitate cross-border data use, and prioritize interoperability requirements and standards within and across sectors, while also taking into account the need for sectoral authorities to, of course, specify sectoral requirements. The Commission is also going to invest in a high-impact project on European data spaces and federated cloud infrastructures. So the project would fund infrastructures, data sharing tools, architectures, and governance mechanisms for thriving data sharing and artificial intelligence ecosystems. It will be based, of course, on the European Federation of Energy Efficient and Trustworthy Edge and Cloud Infrastructures. We will also invest in digital skills and general data literacy. Such funding under the Digital Europe program will contribute to narrowing the gap in terms of big data and analytics capacities. Well, the program will make funding available to expand the digital talent pool with an order of 250,000 people approximately who will be able to deploy then the latest technologies in businesses throughout Europe. The Commission also intends to fund the establishment of EU-wide common interoperable data spaces in strategic economic sectors and domains of public interest. Such data spaces aim at overcoming legal and technical barriers to data sharing across organizations by combining the necessary tools and infrastructures, and of course, by addressing the issues of trust in data sharing. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, such data spaces should be established in strategic sectors like health, industrial, manufacturing, agriculture, finance, mobility, environment, energy, public administration, skills. Of course, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to this, as some of the sectors will have sector-specific requirements, like health, for example. Given the sensitivity of the data involved, it will have to be controlled by public authorities. But at the same time, we also need commonalities across the board, like common infrastructure and common governance mechanisms. Next slide, please. So in order to support these objectives, and as announced in the data strategy, we have several upcoming legislative initiatives on data. The first one being the legislative act on the European data governance that intends to set a harmonized data governance framework meant to facilitate data sharing across sectors and member states and to enable trust. It will also address data sharing intermediaries, concepts as like the data altruism, and of course the better use of sensitive public sector data. The European Data Governance Act will be followed by the implementing act under the Open Data Directive on high-value public sector data sets in the first quarter of next year, 2021. The implementing act intends to make available high-quality data uniformly across the EU for free and in machine-readable formats, also accessible via APIs. Last but not least, from the data package, the Data Act should be adopted by the end of 2021. The Data Act will address the issue of fairness in data access and use, as well as the rights and obligations of persons and organizations on that data, for example, on code-generated industrial data. Now, while not part of the data package, I think it is also worth mentioning the Commission's work on the related Digital Service Act package that should be adopted by the end of this year and where data plays a very important role. As we all know, the accumulation of vast amounts of data by big tech companies, the role of data in creating or reinforcing imbalances in bargaining power, and the way these companies use and share the data across sectors is being analyzed in the DSA context and tackled. So via the DSA package, the Commission intends to propose clear rules framing the responsibilities of digital services to address the risks faced by their users and to protect their rights at the same time. And also, it will propose it intends to propose ex-ante rules covering large online platforms acting as gatekeepers, which basically now set the rules for the game for their users and their competitors. That's it for me. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Alina, for your clear and for your information that is very interesting for us. Then the next speaker is Antti Joy Poikola, is one of the founders of My Data. And Antti, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Gracias. Buenas tardes, a mí me llamo Antti Joy Poikola, soy uno de los fundadores de My Data Global. Voy a hablar en inglés, mi español no es tan bueno después de mucho tiempo.
Bueno, no está mal.
Okay, so great to be here. Yeah, that's a good slide. Let's stay there. So My Data Global is an association that works currently in, we have members from more than 50 countries and we have local hubs in 20 countries, including in Spain. And myself, I'm from Finland and My Data Global is legally established in Finland, but it's a truly global association. And our mission is to build for fair, sustainable and prosperous digital society through human-centric approach to personal data. And oftentimes when we speak about human centricity, then there comes some sort of idea from the companies that this is now going to the other end, and this is something against companies or businesses, and I just want to evade that notion. So human centricity is not against anything anybody else. It's just putting the individuals into the driver's seat, so to say, so that we can decide what to do with our data. And this should be then also beneficial for the organization. So we aim for people getting the value for their data and setting our agenda how it is used. And for organizations, the ethical use of data should always be the most attractive option. And how to make that most attractive option, I think the Commission is using the heavy regulative tools to that end, but then there are many other ways to go for there. Can you go one slide further? If you go to the direction mydata.org/declaration, I think you lost my slides. It's not so. Yes, next one. So here we have My Data Declaration that kind of embodies in a couple of pages the philosophy of human-centric approach to personal data. And there are three big shifts that we aim to make. So the first one is that, yes, great, we have formal rights like in the GDPR. It was mentioned already, like, for example, the data portability, Article 20 in the GDPR. It's written there, but where is the button where I can actually push get my data? That doesn't exist yet. So we need to move from formal rights that exist. Of course, they can be even made better, but we need to move from there to actionable rights so that it is in people's reach to execute their rights. And then the other big shift is that we want to move from the paradigm of data protection only to empowerment with data. And here I kind of provocatively use the example of in jail. If you are in jail, you are very protected. You don't get sunburn and you get food every day and shelter, but you cannot do anything. You are closed. You are protected, but not able to act. So this is just to contradict that it's not enough that people are protected what comes to their data. People also need to be able to act with their data. And the third big shift is that we want to move from closed ecosystems to open ecosystems. And this comes to the standardizations and interoperability, which are the big themes here also. You can go one more further in the slides. So this is just to illustrate the empowerment with data, or the utilization of data and data protection. These are kind of two axes. So on one hand, we have the big data giants, which are very, very good at using data. They make lots of use of the data. And many of the uses are actually quite beneficial for people. I made my slides on Google Slides. That's a great tool, nothing against that. And then on the other axis, there is the data protection, where maybe Europe has been setting the tone for the global conversations by the GDPR. And My Data aims to kind of climb up from the protected world. We don't want to go back to bad data protection. We want to go up from good data protection to better utilization of data. And there the key would be that the individuals, us, we can actually allow our data to be used in services that are beneficial for us. You can go one further. So typically in today's world, we have so-called API economy. So many of the services, they are somehow connected to other services. But this is a mess. It's if somebody changes how the interfaces work, API gets changed, everything gets broken, and we, the people, we are pretty much set aside. I have maybe 200 or 300 passwords in my password manager, so I use all the services. I have no clue where my data is really flowing. So next evolutionary step is that certain players want to become platforms. They want to make it easy to connect data from different sources, and that actually solves some of these problems. So maybe they can serve the app developers very well. So if you go to well-maintained APIs of Google and Facebook, you can get connected to lots of data from individuals. But these are closed ecosystems, and it's not possible to move easily from one to another. There is no interoperability. So the third one that was disappearing from the slides now, the third image is that we want to get to the world where, in a way, we, the people, we are the platforms regarding our own data. So individuals would be the connection points regarding their data, and also the control points. So I can get connected to different data sources, and I can then also decide who gets what. So, for example, a simple example from Finland that was recently developed, it's the public public transportation company from the Helsinki region. They managed to do this simple thing that they can sell online student price tickets, but they need verification who is student. And now there is this kind of my data way that people can push a button that, yes, you can go and check from the official registry whether I have the student status, and if it's valid, then you can sell me the cheaper ticket. And this sounds like, wow, this is how it should be. This is how our services should work. But in order to get that simple thing done, it required law change, because this is for Alina Ramona. So Commission should implement in the data portability clause also the requirements for public sector registries, because now it applies only to private sector data, and all of the goodies, the golden data that resides in public registries is not accessible to according to data portability. And that's why in Finland there needed to be a special law for that special registry, so that people can easily buy tickets on student prices. And that's crazy. We should not be able needing that kind of special laws. Anyways, go further. I will quickly summarize my talk. So in My Data Global, what we are doing, you can go one slide further, please. So we have the slogan, make it happen and make it right. So we want fluidity for personal data, but we acknowledge that we don't want to get to this situation that just gets worse, that people say yes everywhere, and personal data flows everywhere, but there is no human control really. So we want to at the same time make data accessible in human-centric way, but maintain really the idea that people can decide really, and not just technically, but in real life. And for that, we are aiming 3 different levels where we are active at the moment, mostly from the make it happen perspective. There is the infrastructure level. We recently published a white paper of My Data Operators. These are the intermediaries that were mentioned that will be covered also the upcoming Commission proposal of the Governance Act. So we have now 23 My Data Operators that has been awarded globally. So they went through the self-description process. How do they actually maintain this infrastructure for personal data sharing? There are like DGME, Cozy Cloud, that kind of services that are probably familiar to many, but they are actually 23 from 15 countries, if I remember correctly. So that's the infrastructure part. Then we are now focusing heavily on the governance part. So I think this infrastructure and governance, they are like 2 yin and yang. They should go hand in hand, but they are also separate topics. and then the standardization that's in the bottom layer. And we are very closely connected, for example, to self-sovereign identity standardization and that kind of work. So go further, I welcome everybody to go to mydata.org/papers. So there is this MyData white paper that was recently published in English by the Finnish Ministry of Transportation and Communications. That's the first one. And then the white paper on MyData operators. So those are kind of good manuals to read if you are like to. And one more further, you are all welcome to also join MyData community. We have open Slack channel. You can go mydata.org/Slack, or you can become a member, either as individual member or organizational member. So we have 50-50 power balance. So MyData global decision making is always half for the individual members and half for the organizational members, because we really want to bring these two sides together. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. And I remember the audience that we have two hubs very active in Spain, the Madrid hub and the Barcelona hub for MyData. And we have meetings every month, and we have discussions about MyData architecture and MyData project, and it will be a very good place to find the MyData universe. Okay, thank you so much. Now is the turn for Nikos Lautaris. Nikos is research professor at INDEA. Also is an investigator on the PIN-CT project, and will give an overview about the research that they are working now. Nikos, the floor is yours.
Gracias, Miguel, y buenos días a todos. For the interest of time, I'll also go in English. Do we have my slides ready? Yes, thank you. So, as Miguel said, I'm a research professor at the INDEA Networks Institute in Madrid, where I'm running the data transparency group. We are a small but growing group that currently includes 3 postdoc researchers and 3 PhD students. And we are conducting research, basic and applied, in the area of the data economy. Personally, I'm coming from the area of privacy. I spent around 10 years with Telefonica, looking at different privacy problems. We created a data transparency lab, and I did a lot of innovation research and outreach activities. Somewhere in the course of this journey, I realized that many of the privacy problems that I was studying, they were more of an effect than a cause of their own. And I felt that the underlying cause of many privacy problems, not only privacy, by the way, competition and other problems, was the underlying broken economics of data. Okay, and when I moved from industry and came to academia to INDEA Networks, I decided to make the focus of my research the new data economy. And with the group that I mentioned at INDEA Institute, we are looking at different facets of the challenges of the data economy. We are basically going towards 3 directions. We are looking at pricing problems for personal and aggregated data. We are looking at the issue of the ownership of data. What is ownership, how you can prove it, and so on, how you can maintain it. And we are also looking at the data marketplace design. Next slide, please. Now, as has been mentioned by previous speakers, there is a whole growing ecosystem around data that has been going for some time. There are companies that already have data. They collect it from users or from other companies, and they want to open it. They want to liberate it, as Antti said, but in ethical and privacy preserving and manner that also gives benefit to society, as Alina mentioned. And there are also, these are data controllers. Then there are intermediaries. They are like data marketplaces that are trying to become what Amazon has become for e-commerce. You know, they allow you to put a data set over there, and then they act as your representative and sell it to potential buyers. They return part of the money to the data owner, and they keep a commission for that. And last but not least, there are all these personal information management systems that Antti mentioned, where they're trying to become the custodian of individual users on the internet, help you with protect your data, with portability, and also with monetizing. So there's a big ecosystem happening over there. There is a lot of excitement, but truth be told, none of these companies, to the best of my understanding, has become mainstream yet. We don't have like a data economy giant like Amazon or Google or Facebook. And to be honest, this should be expected. Can we go to the next slide, please? I think regarding the data economy, we are being a little bit impatient. Changing the economy is usually something that takes a lot of time. Going from primitive economies where people were exchanging goods to currency-based economies took millennia. Establishing a common currency like we have in Europe took centuries, and war and a lot of pain and other stuff. And so changing radically the economy, and instead of buying something with a euro or with a dollar and buying it with my mobility pattern or my browsing behavior, if it is to happen, it will take some time, right? It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 1 year or 2 years or in the time frames that technology and investors expect things to change. So I think we need to be patient, because behind this vision, there are hard problems. There are hard economics problems. There are hard scientific, technological, and business problems. And I'll give some examples that are the areas where I do research with my team that have to do with pricing. Take, for example, the problem faced by a seller. Somebody has a data set that others would like to acquire. And one of the things that he has to do, the seller, is to decide on a price. At which price is he going to sell the data set? On my slide, I have an example from a real world data marketplaces where you see the name of a data set, you see who the seller is, some description, and a price. How do you decide this price? Right? This is a very difficult problem, right? For other things that are non-digital, if you are to sell a house or a car, it's relatively easy for somebody to decide the price, right? Because you know what how the competition prices the same product. You know how important the product is for potential buyers. So based on that and your experience and our experience as a society and economy, we more or less set the right price. But the data economy is a new economy, right? So we don't have a lot of experience on selling data sets. For a data seller, it's impossible to know how much value the potential buyer will extract from his data. So it's very difficult to set the price. Okay. Now, going to the other side, looking at the data buyers problem, right? Let's say that I'm a company that I need to have access to mobility data sets to decide whether I open a new shopping mall in this area of Madrid or the other area of Madrid. I need to buy this data because I cannot collect it on my own. And then looking at a data marketplace, it might be 4 or 5 sellers or 20 that sell such a data set. How do I decide whether I buy data set 1 or 2 or 20, right? Well, most data marketplaces, they give you a description. They may tell you how big the data set is, and they give you a price. But only with this information, it's really difficult for a buyer to decide whether he should buy the first data set or the second, or maybe buy both. And the problem exists because in the end, whoever buys the data wants to take the data and feed a machine learning algorithm and make a decision. But it's impossible to know how useful the data set will be for a particular machine learning algorithm without first trying the data, right? So there is the chicken and egg problem, right? So somebody is selling you something that you cannot validate how good it will be for what you want, right? And there is a fundamental problem over there about how current marketplaces sell data. Next slide, please. Now, going to the second area that I'm covering with my team, there is the issue of ownership. Basically, an individual or a company that wants to sell some data through an intermediary, through a marketplace. But when we say that I'm selling access to my data to you, What does it mean really? It can mean a lot of things, right? It can mean that you can take the data and then do whatever you like, including reselling it. Or it may mean that you can take it and use it for a particular purpose, and for this purpose, you're going to pay a particular price that we discussed before. The fundamental problem on the internet and the web is that once you give a file to somebody, you lose totally control over this file, right? You cannot control whether this entity or individual will resell the file, will copy it, how many times will read the file, and so on. And it turns out that to build really efficient economics, you need to be able to have some form of control on where your data, after a transaction, on where it has been. To be able to do that, you need to somehow stamp your identity on some data, right? In the physical world, we do this all the time. Like, we used to sign checks, or we may monogram some item that belongs to us. The media industry is putting these watermarks on movies and songs to protect from piracy. So we need to be able to do something like that also with data, right? And this is a challenging problem. It's something that we are looking at, and I think is an important ingredient in order to have the data economy and marketplaces growing. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the third area that we are focusing, that has to do with marketplace design. Before, I saw slides with several logos of companies that are active in the space. Previous speakers talked about standardization and common language between the different solutions. Most of the companies, if you look in this space, at least they begin all of them with the vision of becoming the one-stop shop for exchanging data. I mean, somebody has a nice idea about how to build a data marketplace, goes to an investor, pitches the idea, gets some money, and then starts building something that aspires to become what? To become yet another monopoly, this time for data, right? It aspires to become like a big Amazon, where all the data sellers in the world will go and they put their data there, and then all the data buyers will go from there to buy the data. Well, this is first difficult to happen. And even if it happens, is this really what we want? Yet another huge monopoly in the data economy? If we look at the right side of my slide, we will see that things that we love, like the internet and the web, they are not monolithic and they are not monopolies, right? They are interconnection of independent entities. This is how the internet was built. There were different local networks that started interconnecting. These local networks, they grew up, they became autonomous systems. And then one autonomous system, through what is called peering, connects with other autonomous system. There is a loose governance model on top of it. But nobody owns the internet and nobody owns the web. So I would say, in my view and in my opinion, it would be great if the data economy followed the paradigms of the internet and the web, which are open paradigms. They are democratic, they are distributed, and they have a place for everyone to have a role. But this requires a radically different design of the actual marketplaces that is very distinct and very different from the approaches that we have seen until now. And with that, this is a quick summary of what we're doing. Next slide, please. I just want to say that, thank you for your attention, and say that, as I said, a lot of this work comes from privacy, and my involvement with privacy had to do with trying to avoid what is known as a tragedy of the commons, which is basically, destroying trust on the web because of privacy problems. And I think this tragedy of the commons should be something to be on our mind also with regards to the data economy, how we will use the data for positive purposes without putting too much risks, and always maintaining this balance at the right point that will grow this economy without harming too much privacy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Nikos. Now it's my turn. Mi nombre es Miguel Pérez Subías, y soy presidente de la Asociación de Usuarios de Internet. y voy a hacer un recorrido, voy a pedir ya mi presentación para que la pongáis ahí vamos a la siguiente slide. Ok, entonces mi presentación lo que va a hacer es un recorrido muy rápido sobre el punto de partida en el que nos encontramos en este momento y hacer un pequeño análisis muy rápido, porque tenemos apenas 5 minutos, sobre, digamos, cómo podemos conseguir que los usuarios al final se involucren en todo este proceso de compartir y de participar en el uso de sus datos de una forma consciente, ¿no? Que hasta ahora lo estamos haciendo y estamos creando grandes economías, pero lo hacemos de una forma inconsciente. Tomo como punto de partida la slide que tenía Yogi en los modelos que tenemos en este momento. Tenemos, por un lado, el modelo que llamo de APIs, que es en el que, digamos, hay servicios que se interconectan entre ellos. Por ejemplo, nuestro banco utiliza nuestros datos, se conecta con una aseguradora y tenemos miles de casos, cada uno de su padre y de su madre, todos diferentes. Luego tenemos el modelo de las plataformas, los agregadores, el aggregation model, en el que lo que tenemos ahí es pues, unas plataformas que nos han dado unos servicios súper potentes, súper interesantes, que todos hemos abrazado y todos hemos empezado a utilizar, y que el precio que estamos pagando es que pueden utilizar esos datos que obtienen del uso de esas plataformas para hacerlos llegar al mercado, a la publicidad personalizada, a gente que quiere comprar perfiles. Es decir, han hecho de los datos un gran mercado, pero hemos generado, como decía Nikos, auténticos monopolios. Es decir, tenemos realmente, solo hay un gran buscador, solo hay una gran red social, solo hay una gran plataforma de marketing o a lo mucho oligopolios. Por lo tanto, tenemos un gran problema en estos agregadores que efectivamente han encontrado cómo convertir los datos en dinero, pero han concentrado la economía en unas muy pocas plataformas. Y luego tenemos el modelo MyData, el modelo PIMS, que es el que de alguna forma queremos impulsar en este espacio de la Unión Europea, en el que se pone al usuario en el centro y en el que intentamos dotarle de las herramientas para que sea él el que decida quién usa y para qué usan sus datos. Si pasamos a la siguiente transparencia, ¿qué es un modelo PIM? Pues básicamente es un sistema en el que el control de quién usa y para qué se usan sus datos lo decide el usuario. PIMS y MyData yo creo que son prácticamente sinónimos. La filosofía PIMS está inspirada en la filosofía MyData, por lo tanto yo creo que podemos intercambiar prácticamente, y quizá MyData lo que tiene ya es toda una estructura, todo un camino andado y toda una organización para debatir sobre las posibilidades que esto plantea. Pues si pasamos a la siguiente transparencia, perdonadme que vaya muy rápido para intentar dejar un huequito para las preguntas. Estamos trabajando en un proyecto europeo que se llama PinCity. PinCity, ¿qué es lo que intenta? Pues PinCity lo que intenta básicamente es desarrollar una serie de elementos, desarrollar en la línea de abajo de la transparencia, veis lo que se llama el PDK, que es una serie de herramientas o caja de herramientas que permita construir un sistema PIN, un sistema centrado en el usuario. ¿Qué son estas cajas de herramientas? Pues la que almacena los datos en algún sitio, la que gestiona los consentimientos, la que hace el análisis de cuánto vale ese dato en el mercado en este momento, la que agrega datos, la que incorpora. Con ese PDK se puede construir una plataforma. Este proyecto, por otro lado, desarrolla una plataforma que se llama EasyPins, que desarrolla una serie de herramientas para el usuario y para ir al mercado. Es decir, crea un caso de uso que se pueda poner en evaluación. El objetivo del proyecto, pues básicamente es desarrollar por un lado las herramientas, implementarlas y hacer un par de casos para ver cómo se comporta tanto la parte de los implementadores como la parte de los usuarios. Es decir, intentar que haya usuarios reales y que participen en el proyecto. ¿Qué se le da al usuario? Pues fundamentalmente se le dan 3 herramientas. Se le da un dashboard, una plataforma con la cual pues, puede gestionar sus datos, puede gestionar los consentimientos. Se le da también se desarrolla un sistema de etiquetado para saber cuánto de responsable con respecto a la privacidad y con respecto a la transparencia es un contenido, una app, es decir, que esto se pueda obtener de una forma, digamos, semiautomática y que también funcione como el equivalente a un sello de calidad, y también se le proporciona un data avatar, que es pues, la información que yo quiero compartir, porque al final, es decir, cómo se me ven las redes y también qué información quiero yo compartir con el sistema. Con todo esto se construye una implementación del Easy Pins. Simplemente no quería dejar pasar esta ocasión para mostrar este proyecto, porque luego os vamos a pedir a todos los participantes del IGF pues, que participéis también como beta testers de este proyecto. Si pasamos a la siguiente diapositiva y nos centramos ya en la perspectiva de los usuarios, pues digamos hay cosas que son de sentido común, pero quizá la parte del usuario es la más compleja. Por varias razones. Primera, pues porque la privacidad es un concepto complejo. Los datos personales cada uno los entendemos de una forma distinta. Hemos hecho varias encuestas hemos trabajado con grupos de trabajo y la percepción de lo que es personal y la percepción de lo que es privacidad es prácticamente individual. Cada persona lo gestiona de una forma distinta. Los jóvenes tienen una percepción muy distinta a generaciones más mayores. Prácticamente, digamos, la importancia que yo le doy a la privacidad se duplica en cuanto pasamos de los 40 a 50 años y bajamos a los 20. Por otro lado, el uso de las plataformas y la personalización basada en nuestros datos, pues en general lo aceptamos y lo valoramos positivamente. Y al final, cuando se nos pide si queremos dar nuestros datos, pues reaccionamos de una forma muy distinta a como lo hacemos en el mundo real. Por lo tanto, digamos, el entender y el involucrar a los consumidores es una de las tareas pendientes en todo este ecosistema de PinCity. Si pasamos a la siguiente transparencia, ¿vale? ¿Qué podemos hacer para involucrar a los usuarios? Pues yo intentaba ahí poner un resumen. Por un lado, que las cosas sean simples y sencillas. En general, tendemos a hacer soluciones complejas. Y al final eso requiere que haya intermediarios, es decir, que haya alguien que gestione por nosotros. Pongo el ejemplo de las fintech. Es decir, ahora es relativamente fácil conseguir que desde nuestra aplicación gestionar los datos de diferentes bancos. ¿Por qué? Pues porque se han normalizado los datos, se ha construido una obligación de dar los datos a quien los tiene. Al final, digamos, una mezcla de obligación, de normativa y de estandarización ha conseguido que en un sector se compartan datos. Siempre son del mismo usuario, tenemos que conseguir que sean datos de diferentes usuarios. Por lo tanto, hay otro aspecto que tampoco está claro, que es cómo me beneficio. En las plataformas estaba muy claro que el beneficio es el uso de la aplicación y, por lo tanto, ya tengo un beneficio innato, pero si no tengo una plataforma, ¿cuál es el beneficio de usar? Tenemos el reciente ejemplo de los rastreadores COVID, en el que el nivel de uso ha sido realmente bajo. No hemos sido capaces de transmitir el beneficio. No tanto beneficio a lo mejor económico, sino beneficio social que podría tener el uso de estas aplicaciones. Por lo tanto, tenemos que involucrar a los ciudadanos en esta nueva estrategia europea de datos. Y además tenemos que convencerle a estos ciudadanos de la importancia y del valor que tienen sus datos para que se involucren en esta nueva andadura. Finalmente, y perdonad que vaya muy rápido porque estamos ya llegando al final de la sesión, la siguiente diapositiva, ¿cuáles los pasos? Bueno, pues hacer que las cosas sean sencillas, hacer que nos beneficiemos de los datos, y nosotros por nuestra parte estamos trabajando en crear un foro de organizaciones de personas, de usuarios, organizaciones de colectivos de ingenieros, de gente con discapacidad, asociaciones de mujeres, de gente del mundo rural, asociaciones de personas que nos sirvan, por un lado, para difundir un poco las estrategias en las que estamos trabajando y, por otro lado, también para, digamos, diseminar un poco y proyectar nuestros logros, y también servir de oído para intentar entender qué es lo que les puede ayudar o beneficiar. Y con esto ya termino, y si os parece, vamos a trasladar una preguntita. I will to translate one question for each of you, and as you say, for Alina, the main question is how to involve the public administration. That is we have a lot of data in the public administration. Then the idea is what are the key points to mobilize this data and to put this data available for the ecosystem. That is the main question.
Okay. Well, yes, indeed, we have a lot of data in the public administration, and basically the upcoming implementing act that I have mentioned in the initiative legislatives under the Open Data Directive, it's looking at expanding, increasing the amount of public sector data that will become available, freely available for everyone, by basically defining a list of specific high-value data sets within 6 thematic categories that are going to be geospatial, Earth and observation and environment, meteorological, statistics, companies and company ownership data, and mobility data. So everything that's, when we're talking about geospatial, we're talking about postcodes, national and local maps. When we're talking about Earth observation and environmental data, we're talking about energy consumption, satellite images. When we're talking about meteorological data, we're talking about in situ data from meteorological instruments and weather forecasts. Then, of course, the statistics, like demographic and economic indicators, and companies and company ownership data, for example, data that's coming from business registers and registration identifiers. And of course, when it comes to mobility, road signs and inland waterways. So there's an effort in this sense to make more high-value data sets coming from the public sector available for free for everyone's benefit.
Okay, thank you so much, Alina. The next question is for Antti. We have several questions about how to get the collaboration for the big companies like Google, Facebook, and how to get to have the participation on this My Data, because we are not against the platforms and we will need to co-create a new ecosystem. Then how are the keys to get this collaboration in your opinion?
Well, my opinion is that exactly as you said, that My Data is not against any particular company, but we are definitely against some practices that are not good for people and not good for markets. So anti-competitive activities and exploitative data using, those are practices that we are against. And just by looking a little bit of history of companies, it's quite, in a way, there are not so many companies that are around here in dominant position for a long time. So I'm quite sure that when we go 10, 15, 20 years further, many of these so-called giants are not so giants anymore at that time. Some of them may be, and they have, that means that they have then adapted to the changing landscape of the data economy. So I think that it's mostly that it's natural. So either these companies, they do collaborate, or then they might fight against, and then it's the power play of the data economy. I don't believe any stability that these companies that were established like 10 or 20 years ago would be here in 10 or 20 years in such a dominant position. I'm looking for the long play here, really.
Okay, thank you so much, Antti. We have some question about price, how to fix the price, how to prove the ownership of data. You have some ideas for this question, Nikos? Very quick.
Yeah, I do actually. That's what I do. Look, I see this question about from Fabian. How could the standard be set on pricing of data? This is a good question, and this is how I started my work on pricing. I mean, I wanted to come up with what would be the absolutely fair price. You know, if there was like a perfect genie that sees all the information in the world, how would you do the price? And it turns out that, you know, economics provides tools for finding what the right price is under different definition of what it means, right? And there is a lot of work of this, mainly by economists. The problem with all this work is that it's mostly theoretical work that assumes that somebody has a view in all the necessary information to define what is right, which means that, you know, there's perfect fluidity in the market, the buyers and the sellers. There are these models that are called the perfect information models, where they assume that everything is known. For example, you know, what is the value of the information for each potential buyer, and sellers knowing information about other sellers and so on. So in a perfect world, there is a way to set such a price, but this is not practical. You know, in the real economy, different players either don't have the incentive to release this information, or may even have like a hard time collecting this information, including for themselves. So for me, a more important question about what is the really right price is what is the minimum amount of information that the marketplace needs to release so that the mechanics of the market will make the prices and the behavior of the buyers and sellers approximate this theoretical optimal. They don't have to reach it, but we need to bridge the gap between what theory says that is right and reality today, because in reality today, there's almost no information to help either sellers or buyers decide how to sell prices, how to set the prices, and how to decide what to buy. So we need to bridge this gap, release a limited amount of information that won't harm privacy, that won't will be compatible with the incentives and the business models of each one, and yet be enough to approximate these right prices. And this is one area that we are actively looking.
Okay, thank you so much, Nikos. We are over the time. Thank you so much to every of you. That is, we have a lot of questions in the panel. The organization said that we had around 200 people on the conversation. Then we try to answer the questions offline. And thank you so much to everybody. Thanks.